Good evening. Our show covers sensitive material, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the H2G Podcast. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the H2G Podcast. It is season 7. We are so excited to have you here. I am joined right now by Marvin Scott and Richie Phillips. We are missing them this week, but they are still part of the show. We have Christy and Tony Ray. But first things first, we want to address something about this season. We have decided to go back to our roots. And this season is all about discussing things that are, that we are passionate about, that are important to us, that we think might be important to you and that you might be passionate about, because there's so much going on in the world. So that being said, I want you guys to know going into the season that we're going to approach it differently than you've seen in the past and probably on other shows like this. We have decided on all the stories that we're going to talk about this season. We're very excited about these topics. We think they're important to you. But we've also decided that it'd be best if we don't tell each other where we stand on these topics. So coming in each week, we have no idea if people are going to agree or disagree with us. We're just coming in to be honest and give our true perspectives, because I think that's where our roots lie. Us sharing our souls on the show. Fellas, I want to do best part of the week. I think we should always keep that around. I've missed seeing you guys for a couple weeks here. Richie, my friend, how are things going out there in the Bay Area?
Things are going well. I just had my birthday a couple days ago, so it was a good time. My girlfriend's friends, I haven't really known them very long, but I had a really nice outing on my birthday. And then the very next day, they invited me over to their home, and they all came together, and we all cooked, and it was a wonderful time. So my circle's getting a little bigger, at least here. So that was good. I got these Hugo Boss glasses, but they're not just glasses; they're sunglasses. So I always wanted deal with it glasses. So now I got them. So whenever somebody just pisses me off, I can just give them the deal with it. I'm very excited about that. My buddy saw these. I told him there's they're magnetic, right? So I've seen these before, but he knew I wanted something more specific. They're green, so they look good. I'm going to take them off though, because I don't want people just staring at the reflections on my screens while I'm talking to them. They're not on. I just put them on for the prop, so you knew what was going on with that. Bought a brand new sofa. It comes in a week. It was like $1,600, but honestly, my girlfriend's sofa sucked. And obviously, it's kind of funny because I'm only going to be sitting on the sofa 4 days out of the week. But at the end of the day, we're moving in next year, so I'll get a lot more of it. Super comfortable, very excited. I'm out of money once again. I feel like I say that every season of the H2G podcast, but here we are again. So,
Marvin, I know you and I are both wondering: is Richie, is the couch smart?
Believe it or not, the couch is not smart. Believe it or not, the couch is dumb as hell, but it is comfortable and it's fuzzy. You know what I mean? Like, to me, it was all about the comfort. Marv's right. I wish it was smart, but that doesn't mean I won't make it smart. I'm gonna cut open the little sides there, and I'm gonna have some wireless Qi charging on the sides, okay. And I'll figure something out. I'll try to incorporate Google or Alexa into my couch somehow. We'll work on it just for Mark.
For 7 seasons,
fridge right where the reclining number is.
You're right.
Smart. That's smart. And you can reach your drinks and recline at the same time. That's smart. Well, thanks for calling it out, Richie. People have been seeing what's going on behind my glasses for about 7 seasons now. Marvin, my friend out there in New York.
Glasses.
Yeah, well, you did once. Everybody did. The one episode.
I did once.
I don't remember what that is. You guys were celebrating the win you handed me, if I remember correctly.
That's because the audience knows that nothing with me is rigged. You get my face, you can just see all this.
How are you doing, man? I haven't seen you in a couple weeks. How's things going in New York?
I'm doing good, man. New York is recovering from the hurricane that we had a few weeks ago. I think things are back on the fast track. Now New York is resilient, still coming back. I had my good friend of mine's wedding a couple weeks ago. That was great. He tied the knot again. They had their nuptials 6 months ago, but they had the big wedding for everybody. They were supposed to do this a year ago, but postponed it because of COVID. But it was a great ceremony. It was funny because they couldn't really agree on the music before the wedding. So when we were doing the walkthrough, for the wedding rehearsal, I asked my friend, the groom, I was like, so you get your Stevie Wonder like you want it? He's like, nah. So it was a great day, all in all. He got to get his Stevie Wonder towards the end of the night, but it wasn't Ribbon in the Sky. It was a party Stevie Wonder song. So we all know, we played a game at the wedding rehearsal about who wears the pants in the marriage, and everybody on his side of family, including his friends, went to her side because we all know who wears the pants. So all in all, I'm happy for my boy. Shouts out from H2G to him. I'm happy for him. But all in all, it's been great. Great to see you guys. It's been a minute.
Awesome, man. Yeah, congratulations to your friend as well. I think it's cool that so many people are getting to have their actual everybody, of course, when you're planning to get married, you're not going to let a pandemic slow that down. But it's nice that you still get to have the ceremony with everybody, right? So many people had to push that aside. My weeks off have been great. Things are starting to book up in the acting world. I spoke before about how I've gotten some of these gigs. Now I've gotten through the training and rehearsing. So the calendar has made me busy, which is a great thing for me. If you guys all know me, I like to keep my mind racing. And then this particular week has been awesome because I was able to extend like a full 11 days in Kansas City with my girlfriend, Jordan, and her son, Jacob. And it's just been awesome. We've done all kinds of stuff. I got to see them play football for the first time, check out their theme parks, which is owned by Cedar Fair. We'll talk about that some other time. It was cool to see all the way in Missouri, some Ohio shining in. So, but it's been awesome. We've got a great thing to talk about today, and I'm going to hand it over to Richie to introduce it. Folks, this is a different H2G than you're used to. We hope that you enjoy. If you are here for the games, we'll get back to you on that. We're not doing that. We're going to talk serious today. So, I do want to say viewer discussion advice. And before we hop in and I hand it over to you, Richie, I do want to say we have some works cited that I'd like to get to real quick here. All right. So first and foremost, we want to thank the CDC for their information. We also got information from texasvalues.org, NPR.org. We got information from kview.com, from NewYorkTimes.com, CNN.com, as well as testmaxprep.com. Thank you all for your information. Richie, it's all you, my friend.
Muted myself. That was fun. Bloopers. Yeah, what I wanted to talk about was the Texas heartbeat bill. And not just that, honestly. I labeled it as that because that was the focal point that I wanted my cohorts to really look at. But at the end of the day, I also want to talk about, pro-life versus pro-choice and the entire concept of that. So if you don't know anything about the Texas, heartbeat bill, I was losing my brain in my train of thought. It's basically how do I want to put this eloquently? So I don't want to be too disruptive, but I'm just going to say it. 6 weeks, you have 6 weeks to abort a fetus, right? That's theoretically the idea. And I'm going to let the guy speak first before I get into my own perspective on the problem. But here's what I want you guys to understand as an audience. Whether you agree pro-life versus pro-choice, we have laws, right? And Roe versus Wade was essentially something to give people the ability to make a choice. This heartbeat bill, because there are, I believe, 10 other states, Justin's got all the works cited, and he'll probably get into the figures specifically. But I believe there's 10 other states that have tried a heartbeat bill in some capacity, right? So a heartbeat bill is essentially when the fetus has a heartbeat. It kind of coincides. It's pretty common sense there. And that's generally why when you have people who are referring to abortion, that's why they say it's wrong, is that this person, this baby, this child, this creature, this thing, whatever you want to call it, depending on which side you're on, has a heartbeat and theoretically is alive, right? That's when a lot of people believe there's that consciousness, so to speak. And that's a whole different conversation, and we'll get into that possibly today. I don't know what my brother's about to say. But at the end of the day, the problem I have with this is that it's not about the 6-week ban, which we'll get into. To me, it's the idea that they're trying to avoid like lawsuits and avoid the Supreme Court by galvanizing and rallying basically citizens to just do whatever the hell they want. And it's up to the citizens. It's like dystopian, right? Because it's just like, we're not going to do anything, but any citizens, any of you out there, any of you Texans that are good Texans and good citizens, I want you to, go hunting for these people, essentially. It's kind of like, setting people up like as if they're a Batman, but evil, right? Because it's just completely off the cuff and has no business being like the way it's set up. Now, whether or not, again, the 6-week ban, which we'll discuss, I'm sure, is, legal, fair, etc., whatever you want to call. My bigger qualm is like with that. It's that it's not the state owning up to this law and saying we're trying to mandate this and overturn Roe v. Wade and circumvent it. They're just saying, oh, well, it's set up this way. And in addition to that, you can't really sue us because we're not the ones enforcing it. Private citizens are. So good luck suing them, right? Because that's what this is about. So, Justin, why don't we start it off with you, man? I kind of just recap just the idea of my issues. But again, we're talking about the Texas Heartbeat Bill as a whole and heartbeat bills in general. As I mentioned, anything you'd like to discuss in this field. So, Justin, take it away.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to invite you guys to stop me again, folks. We are making a point to not tell each other where we stand on these topics going in. So I do have quite a bit written here. I'm going to get into it. If you guys feel the need to stop me, please do. Love you both. Going in. That's what we do around here. So, okay, first, let's take a look into the details of the law, shall we? The heartbeat law is stating that doctors/physicians cannot knowingly perform an abortion procedure after detecting a fetal heartbeat in a patient or within that 6 weeks gestation period, as Richie mentioned. But what is the term fetal heartbeat referring to exactly? Typically speaking, when a doctor uses a stethoscope to detect any given patient's heartbeat, they're listening for the beat sound that is generated by the motion of the ventricles in the human heart as they flex open and close, okay? But at 6 weeks gestation, these ventricles don't exist. Okay, so according to Dr. Jennifer Kearns, she's an OBGYN and associate professor at University of California, what you can see pulsing in an ultrasound at 6 weeks gestation is actually electrical activity. And the sound you hear that kind of resembles a heartbeat is actually manufactured by the ultrasound machine as it's tracking the electrical movement of the embryo, which we'll get into that in a second. Before I get to how I feel on the matter, I just think it's important that we bring up some of the crucial flaws in the situation. When the heartbeat law refers to 6 weeks in gestation, it means 6 weeks prior to the end of the mother's previous period. And I am speaking pretty plain, so I hope I'm not offending anybody. But this means that women in Texas realistically have 2 weeks to detect their pregnancy, which is virtually impossible for a ton of reasons. And if you don't understand what I'm saying there, they're counting 6 weeks gestation from the end of the previous period, which is typically month to month, right? There's a wide variety of factors, like I said, that can cause a woman to be late on her period. And only a handful of women are so attuned to their bodies, they will know, we've heard the stories before, right? Where she's like, yeah, I know I conceived. Not everybody's so attuned that they can tell that, right? So they're giving them about 2 weeks. Some women don't even know they're pregnant for months. And I'm sure my brothers will get into that. But to give you an idea, under the new law, women would essentially have to take monthly or maybe even bi-weekly tests to have any actual chance of, getting into a physician and confirming a pregnancy within the state's 6 week period that they're giving them. Just to give you an idea of what puts them where they're at. But truthfully, to me, not all that stuff doesn't matter as much as what it really means for women, okay? The heartbeat law is essentially a group of third-party individuals, majorly men, telling women what they can and can't do with their bodies. And to me, that's never going to be okay. The simple fact that rape and incest victims are not excluded from this new law makes it absurd to me. It should be proof enough that the entire notion is void of any moral competency. I don't think that a woman who's gone into that kind of tragedy should have to like fall. I don't know. Anyway, think about it for a second. A woman, a girl, falls victim to the heinous, disgusting, and mentally scarring crime of rape. And under the new law, they could be potentially forced to have to live with birthing their attacker's child, regardless of what age and place in life they are when it happens. Now, I know there are a lot of women who would choose to bring the pregnancy to term, but that's the point I'm trying to make. They deserve the right to make that choice for themselves. I know that 6 weeks is not enough. You know that 6 weeks is not enough. And we know that the governing powers that be are essentially banning abortion for all women in Texas. And we'll get into some other stuff, but and taking away their rights to privacy. They're taking away their rights to decide what happens to them and their bodies. To me, it's sick, it's demented. And I wish that I could say that it was shocking, but honestly, given some of the conversations we've had on the show in the past, I'm not surprised. Looking at the government and how they handle human equality, I'm not surprised. There's a lot of points to be made about this topic, and I'm not going to make them all. I know my brothers here will have some great things to say, but I'll end off on something that I think is also important, which is what can we do about it? When we were talking Black Lives Matter, we talked a lot about how it hurts and how disgusting it is that it continues. And this is a very similar situation in that, right? But we also, what I thought was super strong was we talked about what can we do about it? As far as Texas is concerned, you can make your voice heard. There are definitely groups of like-minded individuals fighting for the cause. And if you want to make a difference, it's on you to find those groups that are nearest you and do your part in spreading that message. We know that these women deserve their rights, and it's up to you to fight for it. For those of you who are like, wow, yeah, that sucks, but I don't live in Texas, and you're in that boat. Richie kind of alluded to earlier. Texas was actually one of 9 states that issued the heartbeat law as a bill. They passed it to bill. This all started in 2019, if you didn't know. So it was Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Georgia, Utah, Missouri, and Ohio that passed the heartbeat bill. So what I'm saying is if this news in Texas has caught you off guard, and it means that you haven't been able to pay attention to it, you didn't know this was going on, it's okay if you weren't. The news caught me off guard. I didn't know this was a bill. But what's important now is that you do something about it. Now that you know, now that you care, you're responsible for doing your part. Research, reach out, vote. That's the biggest thing you can do. Put the right people in place to stop bullshit like this from happening. Use platforms that you're on. Like us, we've got this podcast. People are huge on social media since the pandemic started. TikTok accounts are at an all-time high. Use your platforms to make your statement. And that goes for either side, but I'm just saying on my side, if you're agreeing with me, do what you need to do. Because as we said, when we talked about Black Lives Matter, or as we said, when we talked about the human trafficking and sex trafficking going on in the country, if you remain silent, in my opinion, you're part of the problem.
Cool. Appreciate that, Justin. Marvin, would you like to dive in as well? If there's anything you'd like to discuss that Justin's already mentioned, or if there's anything else different you'd like to discuss. The only thing I'm going to mention is I want to reiterate what Justin said. When we talk about heartbeat bills, they're very deceiving because it's actually a fetal poll, which is what Justin was referring to, right? It is not the child that is not in existence yet, is not existing at 6 weeks. Let's clarify that. There is no heartbeat at 6 weeks. So just wanted to point that out. Just to reiterate what Justin said, and that's why this is kind of, they try to get you to believe, heartbeat, that's bad. Well, there's no heartbeat, not at 6 weeks anyways, people. Marvin, please feel free.
Yes. I want to do a reaction take based off what you both said. You both had some interesting points, especially you, Justin, of what we can do about it. I think that, we all know Texas has a long history of passing pro-life legislation. And what was more shocking was that these lawmakers signed off of it, 6-week period of gestation. Like Richie was saying, the baby does not exist yet. So really what this means in translation is that seems like this is a classism attack. This targets women of low income communities, and you're leaving it up to the citizens to privately sue physicians or doctors or even individuals for seeking an abortion when you don't know the complete circumstances, especially in Texas, being that the state is so huge and you have so many people. This is not, my place to, really, say this, but there's so many women victims of incest and rape, and these lawmakers don't understand, like, you're putting money back into rich people's pockets while at the same time it's this Texas heartbeat law detriments low income communities. So I think that what we need to do is continue to raise awareness and vote, like you said, Justin, get more people to understand that this is not just going to stop here. This is going to so many different states, and including our home state, Ohio. I just find it really shocking that, Greg Abbott would sign off on this, and particularly being that you're saying that you're pro-life, pro-choice, but you're taking the choice out of women's hands. I don't know what I'm getting.
Yeah, there's a couple things I'm just going to get into. I think the first thing I'm going to talk about is Abbott, because Marvin just mentioned him. I don't know how to describe this guy because it's very hard, other than I'm shocked he's elected, but then again, it's Texas, right? I know Justin moved there, so buddy, you're going to have to deal with these people.
Right.
I really don't care. Just to clarify, if anybody's watching from Texas and you don't like what I have to hear, I really don't care, because you're a big part of the problem. Like, you've lived in Texas and you're not doing enough, clearly, to have a governor this incompetent. And let me explain why he's incompetent. It's not from the basis of this heartbeat bill, as we've said, which is already disingenuous in the name. It's his response to why rape and incest is not part of the bill. Okay? Now remember, this is an actual quote from the gentleman, okay? This is not paraphrase. Texas will work tirelessly to make sure that we eliminate all rapists from the streets of Texas by aggressively going out and arresting them and prosecuting them. This is why this man's a fucking buffoon, right? That right there, it shows he has no concept, and his white privilege right there is shining through, that he doesn't understand. And it's ironic because, I say white privilege, but the reality is everybody deals with incest and rape. And quite frankly, the first part is what I was saying, incest. A lot of rapes happen within a family member. That's really where it comes down to. Justin may have some statistics, I don't, but that is significantly where this occurs. So first of all, they're not coming from the streets, buddy. You're gonna have to stop it within households. That's the first problem. And quite frankly, I'd like to mention another statement real quick, because this will kind of surmise the exact same problem that I was referring to. Amy Jones is the chief executive officer of the Dallas Area Rape Crisis Center. And again, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice, the point is she is the Rape Crisis Center. There's a bias in it, but here's what she said, and this is very succinct and educated, and I like it. Certainly, it is our mission statement to work to end sexual violence. That is why we exist. But we are also very aware that it's an aspirational goal. And yes, we believe this is a preventable crime. But if it were that easy, rape would no longer exist, right? And I agree with that statement, right? Nobody's saying we don't want Abbott to stop rapists. Obviously, fine. But to say, I'm not going to make provisions because we're just going to go get them is a really stupid thing to say. And, I'd like to believe that this was a gesture and a thought process of like goodwill, but he's stupid. He's absolutely an imbecile. And, when you look at like Ted Cruz and you look at the people who represent Texas, it's just painful. I'm not going to keep ragging on Texas, but, you know, I think what my problem with this is, one, like I said, the backdoor shenanigans of trying to avoid the Supreme Court. And again, the Supreme Court, like, that was a 5-4 decision. And technically, they're not like saying it's great. They didn't sign off on it. They're just not going to knock it down, because they're saying it's not about the legalities of it in terms of why they're saying they didn't like strike it down. They're not saying it's legal to make it 6 weeks. Let me clarify, people. That's not what they're saying. They're saying it's a challenging position for them to deal with the private citizens portion of this. And that's why they basically have abstained from this right now. But this will, and just so you know, the judicial department is suing the state of Texas. So there's already a bunch of this. And at the end of the day, I do believe Abbott in Texas understood that this won't hold up forever. And their idea was to just really send a shockwave and a ripple effect that we are pro-choice, we are pro-life, and we're going to try to make the state, you know, this is more of a political symbolic gesture. Because theoretically, as to Justin's point, the doctors and et cetera are now dealing with this bill, and they are not going to do this work. But all this is going to do is lead Texas women and Texans to leave the state to do those services as they need, because that can't be dealt with, so to speak. A private citizen can't, you know, oh, I know Judy down the street went and got an abortion in California, and then she flew back, and she's, you know, I'm going to bring her in, and no, it's only in the state of Texas. So that's why this is just such a bizarre, puzzling thing. It really feels very much like prohibition in the early 1900s, to be honest. It's just like people find a way. And it was very cowardly from my perspective to not put it up to the state. If you're really going to take a stance like this and say, you know, we are pro-life, we are not pro-choice state, then as a state, deal with the lawsuits and the litigation, right? If that's what you truly believe and your state is backing you up based on the voters, then let it come out of their pocketbook. Let them pay for these fees. Let them deal with this legislation. But instead, they privatize it so that way they can use citizens as a shield and not have to suffer the repercussions of such a heinous bill. This is stupid. It won't last, but it's just disgusting that it's even here. And quite frankly, this isn't even only the stupid bill. This is just the first one to get through because they found the loophole, right? As Justin mentioned, and he'll read off the list again, he's already done so. There are quite a few states that are just basically got shot down, Roe v. Wade, and they're in stasis. Ohio being one of them, many of them in the same position, where it went through their own legislation in their own Congress, and it did pass. But then it just got to federal court, and now it's kind of on the chopping block, and it's being suspended. So there are many, many states. This is not Texas exclusive. We're just referring to Texas because this is the first one to actually succeed by avoiding, you know, the Supreme Court and law and what's legal and what's not legal, what's constitutional and what's unconstitutional. You know, I find it ironic that the same state that like mandates that you aren't going to wear masks for children going to schools, so they're pro-choice when they want it to be, but certainly not when it comes to life, right? God forbid you force me to wear a mask, even though they can't, and the country isn't. But we're going to make sure any woman doesn't have a choice, and her body is not her own decision. It's kind of crazy. We're going to take a little pause, though, guys, and we'll get right back to it. So stay tuned to the H2G podcast. And if you like what you're hearing, and if you like where we're going, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on the Spotify's, the Apple Podcast, any podcast you feel, Podbean for all I know, Facebook. Make sure you like and subscribe. We would really appreciate it, okay? So stay tuned, guys. I just figure we're running out of time, so I don't want to have somebody just...
Oh, perfect. No, that was great. I was trying to figure out the best way to say it, because we can definitely stay under an hour, too.
Yeah, no. I mean, we don't have to go another 50 minutes. I just figured 7 minutes isn't enough for us to...
Get ready for a sports podcast like you've never seen before. The latest stories. Perspectives you don't get on ESPN. Real honest truth. And of course, comedy. The Wire Sports Podcast. Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Welcome back, people. Sorry, we're not laughing about the subject. We are laughing about what we just discussed over the break. Let me clarify that right now. Okay, so we were talking quite a bit about this in detail, and I'm going to go reverse around the horn. I'd like Marvin to kind of just summarize any other thoughts we want to hit, because we don't want to go too long on any of these people. And just so you know, our gentleman friend, Tony Ray, has provided us his opinion as well. And he had to pre-record it because he's feeling sick. So we did not get to see this opinion. It will probably be different than what ours is, to my understanding. I know Tony pretty well. And please look forward to that as well. And that will be playing. So you'll get at least a lot of H2Gs. And, you know, at a later date, if we really don't agree, it would be interesting to have a conversation about pro-life and pro-choice again down the road, possibly do more of a debate. So that'll really come down. Make sure you comment as well. And maybe somebody from our audience would like to attend and have a conversation with us, because at the end of the day, that's kind of what the season's about. The season is about us really challenging ourselves and challenging you as viewers and listeners, and not necessarily having to agree, right? A lot of the times we pick things and we have like-minded opinions, or so we think, right? Because a lot of the times we share similar backgrounds, but like anything, you know, I've said it a million times, Marvin and Tony, their experience is going to be different than mine no matter what. As close as we are, and as much as we think similarly, we had different lives, as Justin and Christy as well. So I'm looking forward to this season, and I'm looking forward to Tony's opinion, and you'll get to see that in a little bit. But Marvin, let me know, what's your thoughts, man? Just like we're kind of wrapping up on pro-life versus pro-choice and the Texas heartbeat law and the heartbeat laws in general.
Well, just like you said, I think it's like political bounty hunting. Like, you're giving people the power to go out and really be vigilantes to people that want to get an abortion, and you don't even know that person's circumstance. So I really think it's backwards in terms of you won't allow kids to mask up at schools, but you are putting the power of choice into people's hands to turn people in. So basically, you want to monetize off this pro-life bill. And that's what it seems like to me is profiteering off this Texas heartbeat bill. So I really hate that this is happening right now in America, in terms of this is where we are, because Texas has a long history of doing things like this. But for grown lawmakers, grown men, particularly white men of white privilege, to sit in a room to hatch and scheme ways to target women's choices, you know, I really think that they're going backwards, you know, violating every single woman's value on every end of the spectrum. So, I mean, that's just my summary of it. I should never be in this position to, comment on a woman's body, nor should lawmakers.
Well said, man. Well said. Justin, it's kind of hard to follow, but you got anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, Marvin's always hard to talk after. That man just speaks gold 24/7. He put it in a great way. It's disgusting that we have to discuss this. And I didn't mean for that to be so catchy. As you mentioned before, this is not the only state that's got this bill on the chopping block or on suspension. Between those two titles, we've got Louisiana, Arkansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, Georgia, Utah, Missouri, and Ohio, all with that bill passed through their state legislation. So as I said before, I think first and foremost, your job is to do something about it. If you feel as strongly as we do about protecting women's rights, you need to use your ability as a citizen of this country to do something about it and not just bitch about it on Facebook or YouTube or in our comments below. I love your comments, and I hope you're putting some great ones. If you're on either side of the fence, I still love you. Don't worry about that. But if you're not speaking up for your opinion in any matter, then it doesn't matter to me if you're not doing something about it. I know when the election comes around, for me being a Texas citizen, I've got a lot of research to do because there are things that I care about in this state, and this is one of them. I have heard so much about, you can't force me to take this vaccine. You can't force me to wear a mask. You can't force me to do this. You can't force me to do that because I'm American. And these are the same, pardon my French, same fucking people that are forcing women to try to figure out if their rape victim or the rape suspect impregnated them within a fucking 3-day window. It's disgusting. I'm not going to get into the details of it, but this subject hits home directly to my family. Shouts out to my mom. You shouldn't have to make that decision based on a law that some drunk white dude made in the fucking Capitol. It should be up to the individual. If you disagree, come at me. We'll put you on the show. Go for it, Richie.
Yeah, I think the one thing I'm going to comment on with Justin's conversation was the trauma of rape, right? Because that's a big part of this. Like beyond just choice, which is what I believe. I believe any woman has a choice to do whatever they want. And I'm not just talking about their bodies. And unfortunately, we live in a patriarchal society, not just in Western culture. People like to pretend like it's just the US and the Western side of no, the world is patriarchal, right? At the end of the day, men have massive power over women. And this is just another example of that. But sometimes there's like so many factors involved because some pro-lifers are like, oh, well, in cases of rape and incest, abortion's okay, but that's it. So it's quite bizarre because to me, it's just like, no, I don't agree with that either. I believe I'm a pro-choice guy. It's like, it's not my business. And, this is something I've talked about at length with, not my girlfriend about pro-choice and pro-life, but like that it's not my business. Let me give you an example. I'm dating someone, lovely woman. She's the love of my life. She's got a 7-year-old. I don't tell her how to, raise her child. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm actively participating. We've got museum, memberships, and there's a lot of things I pay for and we do as a family and like as a family. But at the end of the day, that's her child. I will be the best father figure I can be, but I'm not going to say it's not my business in that sense to try to like supersede blood like that. And it's so crazy. And even on smaller levels, like so many times I'll hear somebody just randomly like, here's what I would do. Like when somebody's talking about what they're, what's going on with the kid and they're having a problem. And sometimes it's usually not even solicited. And somebody just feels like my opinion is important. And, I've went through 4 children, so let me give you some advice, even though I never asked for it. And that's what this is. It's like, you don't know the circumstances of this woman's life. Let me be very specific. It's not a person, it's women. You don't know this woman's life. You don't know what she's going through or why she may or may not want to have a child. And it's so barbaric. And let me say that again, barbaric on the idea that this woman has to just have the child and give it up for adoption. Women die from giving birth. Like some people don't want to go through the pregnancy and that's their choice. Like we live in a different society. Like by your logic, people like, okay, fine. Like, you shouldn't be able to get vaccines and you should be able to, deal with tuberculosis and deal with these things. You don't need them, it's so bizarre. We live in a society where there is the option to not have a child in that sense and do it in a way that won't harm the woman. And in an ethical sense, ideally having an abortion before the child has a heartbeat and things like that, as we've discussed. But even if we're in those territories, it's not my business. That woman can do whatever she wants. And that's what I think is probably the most disgusting thing about this. I'm very fond of women as a whole. I tend to have more women friends, etc. And we're actually gonna have a lot more topics about women over the next couple of weeks. I'm looking forward to having those discussions. But this right here is the one that it should be hook, line, and sinker. I'd be surprised if I have too many pro-choicers in our audience, but you know what? I hope that is the case, because I want to see pro-lifers rather. I want to see the different opinion, you know, other than religion. I just don't like, if it's your religious reasoning, that's just, I don't care. I just don't care. I don't care what a white dude said 2,000 years ago when he wrote a book. You know, like there are so many things in the Bible that like we don't follow, and you don't follow, person I'm referring to, that may or may not exist. It's just the realities. We all sin based on that book, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, and sometimes we have to acknowledge that some of those sins are absurd. They're fucking absurd. And quite frankly, this is one of those. This is not like 2,000 years ago. We have the choices that we can make, and we can do them in a healthy manner that don't impact somebody's life. You know, it can get more dangerous. People don't realize that, you know, like, 30 years ago, people were shoving women downstairs and beating them to try to stop this from happening. Like, this has always happened, so to speak. It's just now we have a procedure that does it in a manner that's not going to like damage the integrity and the health of a woman. It's more safe. So what is the problem with being more safe? Because if you eliminate these things, what I just said will happen. And I'm not saying some woman's going to like get beat by a man to do that, but she will find ways to abort the fetus in much unhealthier manners to herself. So it doesn't make sense. It's not for you to decide. From my perspective, feel free to disagree, put it in the comments, send us a video, curse us out. I don't care. I would love to get any of your opinions on this. If you're all pro-choice, great. If you're all pro-life, I would love to hear your statements. I'm not going to say great because I don't agree with you, but you have the right to your opinion. And I'm looking forward to seeing your opinions, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen, for doing this topic with me. It was something that's near and dear to my heart. There's a couple more women topics we're going to be doing, and I'm looking forward to this entire concept. But we are not finished, because this is a H2G podcast. There are two things we do besides death and taxes, and that is how was your week and final thoughts and the last word. So we're going to do the last word. We're going to spin it around. Marvin, please share with us your last word.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for sharing the information that you did. That's what that's our roots. That's what we had talked about before this season began. And for all of you listening out there, whether you enjoyed it or not, that's how we're going to present it. We hope that you can engage with us and let us know your comments, and let us know how you feel about this subject and many more subjects about this pertaining to women to come. So we definitely want to keep you all involved. This has been, this is eye-opening, for everyone right now where we are in our country in terms of this bill and going backwards. I'm continuing to educate myself on ways we can, rectify the issue. Like Richie was saying, and as Justin was saying, as men, we really don't have that much of a place when it comes to that. But in terms of what we can do on this show and sharing information to raise awareness, we'll do it. But I really want to thank you all for tuning in to the first episode. We've got many more to come, and we're looking forward to it.
Justin.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much for leading us through this. Thank you guys. And I'm super excited for this season. I think this is what we've all been missing and needing. I love the fact that we can bring our hearts to this. And I love the fact that we have no idea where our fellow castmates stand. And we picked some stuff that could go either way. There was one thing I wanted to mention, fact-wise, as you're listening to this episode. It's important to know that the fine related to losing one of these civil abortion cases in Texas right now is a minimum of $10,000. Just to put some more stakes on that for you. I hope that listening to this episode, you've thought about some of the things that really matter. That's where I'm going to go with this. I'm hearing a lot of, I'll be damned if you're going to infringe on my rights in this way or that way. Regarding the vaccine, I'll call people out, not by name. If you feel targeted, Comments are right below us, people.
And we're targeting you.
Yeah, come at us, bro. It's in the comments, or broette, whoever you want to be. We'll welcome you in to speak your opinion. We'll mention your opinion on the air. I don't care, but I'm hearing you talk about, you're trying to force me to take this vaccine so that you can, for whatever you think the agenda is. You're trying to force me to wear this mask for whatever you think the agenda is. I will be damned if my rights are infringed. I'll have to come and get my guns and pry them from my cold, dead hands. Let's look at some of the shit that's really going on. Some of the rights that are really being infringed. Civil fucking rights that have been infringed for much longer than all of us have been alive and are still going on today. Why don't you open your fucking eyes and take a look at the world you live in before you start bitching about stuff that might be down the road? These women have just had something crucial taken away from them, and they may have to live through something that you couldn't even fucking imagine. Live, laugh, love like it's your last. I can't wait to do this again next week. I love you guys.
My final thoughts / last word are really just going to be the same thing we were discussing. For all of you who feel disenfranchised, and in this case, we're referring to women, know that you matter. Know that even though this country is still very barbaric and still behind, and even though we claim to be so forward thinking and beyond a lot of the third world countries, and for instance, the Middle East, where their women are even more suppressed and things like that, the argument should never be, you're not as suppressed as them, so you should be happy, right? You should not be thankful for that. You should not be thankful for the things you're dealing with and the gender wage gap, which we'll be dealing with later. We're going to have a lot of discussions, not just about women, but let me clarify. It looks like about a third of the docket is going to be related to women. So if that makes you uncomfortable, then don't watch our show. I don't really care. But we're going to be discussing a lot more. And for you ladies out there, we do appreciate that you should have a choice. We feel and understand that this is barbaric, and it's just sad that we have to have these topics and have these discussions. It's sad that we live in a world where you have less rights and less thought than us, and you quite frankly, you are thought lesser than us. Even though many of us are trying to change that mentality. I wish we had bigger platforms. I wish more people would be willing to share, but we're not there. And obviously, we have a wonderful lady on this podcast who really did want to talk about this, but she is under the weather as well. Very related for obvious reasons to Tony as well. And unfortunately, she was not able to have her discussion. So perhaps we'll hear from her later about this. I know she had very strong opinions about it. But as far as us, I'm looking forward to this. This was amazing. Thank you guys so much for doing this with me. And thank you guys for listening to us. This is something that we've been wanting to do. Marvin and I had a discussion with Justin in particular, and we're talking about going back to our roots. And Marvin said it twice now, back to the roots. And this feels like back to the roots. This feels a lot more cathartic for me. I enjoy having much more deeper discussions. And, I'm again, like anything, we're H2G. We always try to reinvent ourselves. We always try to up in the pace. We always try to make this more thought-provoking and fun. And we'll continue to do so. So some of the segments you used to love, they may come back at a later date. Let us know. Put it in the comments. Give us an email, whatever it takes, guys. We love performing. We love talking about things. We love hanging out with you, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate you. And just stay tuned for next week, because we're going to be talking about something Christy is ready to do, social media. So if you're one of those people who's always on their phone, just know we're about to talk about you. So until next time, people, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, and we'll see. I don't have the catchy thing that Justin does with the live, laugh, love like it's your last, but I'll tell you what, it's patented. I wouldn't steal it like some other people. So all I can just say with a heavy heart is, if you didn't like this topic, deal with it. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Hey folks, it's Tony Ray with the H2G Podcast, and I wanted to just say a couple of things. My comrades have the opportunity to discuss with everyone about this abortion law that is taking place in Texas. and is on its way to probably change the United States as we know it. I'm sure that there's going to be statistics and things thrown at you from all over the place. And what I want to let you know is, I'm split down the middle. I respect that there's challenges and opportunities, and I might not see things a certain way that someone else sees it, but I have this pleasure of keeping an open mind and learning from what other people are saying. And that's all I can hope that you all take away when you watch or you listen to this particular podcast, because there's going to be points of view, and doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that I have to understand where they're coming from, why they see it that way. So this is the new format for the H2G podcast, and I am, really excited. And if you ever have anything that you disagree with or you want more clarification on, please reach out to us, let us know. But for me, just real quick, I was shocked at the fact that there's so many people that are in uproar about, something that for me, it's unquestionable. It's unquestionable because I don't see abortion as an answer ever. I just, there's circumstances and variables with everything in life. And, if you take on that responsibility to do that action, then you have to, do what's right. We live in a society where it's, I'm not feeling it right now. It's not the flavor of the month. So, let's go ahead and trade in my car, or let's, drink and drive and make other irresponsible decisions. Getting an abortion because you say to yourself you can't afford it, or because you're not mature enough. Well, if you're mature enough to do the act, you're mature enough to take on the responsibility. What can I say? That's just what I believe. Does it mean it's right? Does it mean it's wrong? No. I'm going to have pushback. People are going to tell me, well, it's this, that, and the other, meaning, what about rape? What about incest? What about, not actually having the father there because the father doesn't want to be a part of the child's life? Now I really am in a financial bind. The majority of abortions are coming from, and this is on the CDC, are from pretty much people that it's not rape. It's not because they're not financially able to have the child. It's just because they don't want to have the child. And that's the part that makes me sick. It's whatever. I'm not feeling it. I'm going to have pushback from the people that say it's a woman's body, it's a woman's choice. Yeah. It takes two to tango, right? It takes two for that action. And then people are going to say, well, what about the damage that's done to my body and everything that goes on? You don't have to go through that. Well, if we go down that avenue, then, you're going to open up a door where people are going to say, well, then if it's your body and your choice, then I have a choice that if you want to keep it, that I don't have to be responsible for that child. And then I'm going to get pushed back and say, oh, no, it doesn't work that way. Well, you can't have cake and eat it and all this other stuff. I understand, because I've had this conversation with my significant other, that the only way that I would be accepted was for those sticky situations, no pun intended, not really trying to be funny. The rape, the incest, things of that nature. But then you're going to have a whole bunch of people calling rape. Then you're going to have a whole bunch of people, making things up that shouldn't be made up. This whole conversation, which I'm excited to actually listen to, because I actually wasn't there to listen to my podcast family discuss this. So really, you're just getting somebody that's sitting in front of a microphone, staring at you in the camera, just speaking how they feel, not really trying to sway you a certain way. I'm just saying, this is how I feel about certain things. And that's what this whole podcast is going to be about this season. Is it's going to enhance my thinking. What am I thinking? Why am I thinking it? Do I need to think of it differently? But I can't wait to watch. I hope you enjoy it. We'll see. I'll do a recap video of me actually watching the podcast, because I know Richie's going to bring some straight information. I know Marvin's going to bring some information. I know Justin's going to bring some information. And I just can't wait to hear exactly through their verbiage how they see things, how they feel about things, what they would like to be different. Because the road that we're going down right now, abortions have been around, God, who knows how long. So it's been happening. What needs to change if you want it to change, and why does it need to change? Those are the questions that need to be answered. You're not going to get that here, but you're definitely going to get critical thinking. You're going to get conversation, and you're going to get people being honest to goodness about how they feel. Catch you on the flip side.
H2G would like to invite you to post your view on today's topic in the comments below. Be advised that degradation, slander, use of slurs, or any other action of a disrespectful nature will not be tolerated. This is a safe space, and your voice matters.